to another edition of the Believe series. This is the Raise Your Game show. I've got a good friend with me. Well, she's a friend. She's also my CFO. She's also a client. So I have Michelle Cooper here with me, and we're going to have a conversation about money. We were just having a conversation. I think that would be a good lead in to kind of talk about, maybe if you want to share that story, do you mind sharing the story we're just talking about? We're going to share that story. But when I say the word money, like money, I think people just get really uncomfortable. It's like we just yelled, Mufasa.
Right?
And so I thought it'd be really cool for you guys to have a peek in on a conversation with $2 million business owners. How do we think? How do we make decisions? How do we interact with each other? Because there's not a lot of us, right, around. And so it's sometimes difficult to find someone who can relate to where you are and the types of decisions that you're making. Before we jump into this conversation, I would like to make an invitation to you to join us at Game On Live event, because tickets are going to be going up soon. So you can now get a seat at Game On Live event for $497. Game On Live is my brainchild, and it is the space and place where I put everyone, clients included, where I can spend 3 full days really deepening their capacity to receive and expanding their capacity to receive, the value and worth that they see in who they are by God's design and what they bring to the table. And you leave that event feeling like a money-making badass, if not really 100% owning it. You will not walk into those doors and leave the same. I promise you that. So if you want to end this year with some fire and some power and some certainty and some surety and some money in the bank, you want to be at Game On Live. GameOnLiveEvent.com. When you go there, you can still secure your seat for $497. The price will double to $997 in a short amount of time. Why am I saying in a short amount of time? Because I don't remember the date. So you better move now.
Just do it now.
Do it now. Just do it now. So $497, and eventually the tickets will end up at $1297. All right. So there's enough about that. I just wanted to give you guys that, and I'll probably make another announcement later. So Michelle, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell them who you are and what you do in the world?
Yeah. Who I am. I'm Michelle Cooper. What do I do? A lot. I am the founder of Alchemy Accounting and Bookkeeping, and we provide accounting, bookkeeping, business coaching, CFO services to coaches and consultants across North America. And our mission in life really is to help these entrepreneurs transform their relationship with money and support them in the expansion of their wealth consciousness, which changes the wealth trajectory for future generations. And we love what we do.
Super cool. So if you guys are wondering what's going on behind me, by the way, I'm in Costa Rica. So there's that.
It's like, what are those funky little drapes?
Yeah,
there?
what are those lamps? And what's that striped colored whatever that's going on? That's not on brand. It definitely is not. I am in Costa Rica, and I'm grateful for Michelle for being here with us today. I'm actually grateful for who she is in my life, because she helps me keep my money together and my feet planted on the ground when the lack that it still has a little residue in my DNA, right? Because I didn't grow up with money. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. Tries to well up. She's like, "Girl, you got money." Which what are you talking about?
Whoa. What are we talking about here?
So I want to start with this story we were just talking about, because Michelle came down to California last week?
It was last week.
Okay,
Yeah.
She came to California last week, and she just happened to stop by my town. She literally stopped in my town. She stopped by my town, and I took her. You guys know I love to shop for my Lubies. So I took her to the Louboutin store because she was like, I want some fancy smashy shoes, right? So Michelle, why don't you tell them the story you were just telling me about what happened in the Louboutin store?
Yeah, I found it so interesting, like almost like if you were watching a National Geographic show and you saw these 2 women, waiting in line for the store and being allowed in the store. And I felt so uncomfortable in this store. Okay. I don't know what it was, but energetically, I was like, I shouldn't be in here. My feet are too big for these shoes. The whole environment, I felt like out of my realm kind of thing. And, if we're really honest, me as a white woman, $1 million business owner, should have been owning my shit in that store, right? Should have been my comfort zone. At the same time, I was watching my friend, Shameca, who typically, right, if we went by like the cultural norms, should not feel comfortable in that store as a Black woman, right? And so I watched Shameca like instructing people all over the place. My girl needs some shoes.
I was like, we need help. She needs shoes.
Those shoes. She had people running all over the place in this store, right? There was this guy, he's like, girl, right? Put those shoes on your feet. And Shameca is saying to me, march yourself around this. Like, where is your Beyonce? Pull that in, Michelle. And I'm like all wobbly on these shoes, right? And I sat down and I just had so much gratitude for you, Shameca, to be in my life, because I was like, you're just such a phenomenal example of embodied abundance, that embodied energy and that empowered abundant energy, right? Like there wasn't a question of whether you belonged in that space. Now that might come from your experience, right? In life, right? And you can speak to that, but it was a really powerful, like it was a funny moment, but it was a really powerful moment that I've shared with clients, that just because somebody's $1 million business owner, or just because they're a certain nationality or skin color or whatever, doesn't mean that they have that energy running through their body 24/7. We all have our moments, right? Now you could put me somewhere else and I would be totally fine.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's a good conversation to have, which is why I wanted you to bring the story up. Mm-hmm. What I think about is, it's taken me a lot of work to get comfortable in my own skin in all places. And there was a time where I may not have been comfortable in that space, but I got to the point where I realized I've worked so hard to get where I am, and I just want to enjoy it regardless of what other people think or what their judgments may be. Right, I know that when I walk in stores, sometimes people are assuming that I may not buy. I had this conversation actually with someone here in Costa Rica, another Black woman, that if I'm not if I'm not carrying my Louis Vuitton purse, I'm not wearing my Gucci shoes, there's a little bit of a different reaction, but I still maintain that I belong. And here's the thing, like, I think I heard this from someone before and I really adopted it. I belong everywhere that I am. Mm-hmm. And in my own skin. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I wish I would have videotaped your walk in those shoes.
I know. I wish you would have too, because I feel like it would have been the perfect jiffy doodad.
Yeah. But just like really just taking ownership of whether I buy the shoes or not buy the shoes, right? This is an experience that I am having right now, and I want the full experience. I don't want the experience you give me because you think I can buy or can afford to buy. And I think that starts before you have $1 million business. It starts before you have all the wealth. And that's why I thought the story was important. Like how we feel in our own skin about money, or when money is introduced into the situation, or when there's luxury in introduced into the situation, how we behave tells a lot about the residue that we carry with us. And a lot of times that residue is pushing off or holding back an abundance that's available to us right now, wealth that is available to us right now, because we feel so uncomfortable around it. We don't allow more in. And so one of the statements that I always adopt for myself is, I am rich now. I'm wealthy now. I'm rich. Because I think at every level you think, oh, I'm not that rich. Like even me being a multi-million-dollar business owner, which is great. Like it's top 3% of all business owners, right? However, when I look at those who are doing 100 million or billions, I'm like, okay, I'm small potatoes.
Right?
I'm not rich at all. I don't have any. So I have to like really just adopt this. I'm rich now. I'm wealthy now. And that's something that I really want to just pass on to people, that when you find yourself in uncomfortable situations because you feel like you don't belong, financially speaking, take a deep breath. You belong everywhere that you are. You are wealthy, you are rich, in the moment that you're in right now, more than you can even possibly imagine. And then there's the other side of that conversation, Michelle, like you were talking about, you being a white woman and having $1 million business, and me being a Black woman and having $1 million business. And, that there should have been some differences. And that's part of what we're trying to change, right? It's like, we want to get money in the hands of good people. And I want the face of wealth to change across this planet, right? We always think, we're thinking, Michelle, well, her eyes green or blue? Blonde-eyed, blue-eyed white woman, right?
Right.
They're blue. Okay. She fits the bill.
I do. I got all the things.
Or we're thinking white male, right? If they come into a space and they look the part, we automatically assume that they belong. If someone who looks like me, a Black woman, Black man, walks into the space and we look the part, we either got invited by somebody, right? How'd you get here? What are your qualifications?
Who gave you?
Right? And I want to shift that. I want to shift the face of how we view wealth. And I know that's kind of a deep conversation to open this up with, but Michelle and I are really, really real on a lot of levels.
Oh my God, totally. Right. And I think that's the foundation of not only our friendship, but our working relationship, right? That we can have conversations and they can be really grounded conversations. But we also had to get to know each other, right? And to know that, okay, I'm like, I always say to you, I maybe I'm screwing up and I don't even know, like, I don't know, right? I'm going with what feels good all the time, right? Like what feels good and right versus what I should do or should say, and I think when we're working with clients, regardless of how much money that they're making, just approaching it from that level changes how you support people and it changes the outcome, right? So I think it's a really powerful conversation for everyone to have, and have it in a really grounded, transparent way. There's not a lot of people that I can have these very transparent conversations with besides you.
Which is sad, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And so we have a different kind of relationship in that there are moments where Michelle is supporting me because she's my CFO. And there's moments where I'm coaching and mentoring her because she's my client. And so there's boundaries there. Like we have to figure out where those lines are in that relationship. And a lot of people aren't capable of doing that. And so I want to flip the script and kind of talk about, you've been in 2 of my programs so far. You came into sales school, and both of which you were already my CFO when you came in, right? Yeah. It's what's cool for me is people get to see the back end of my business and then they become clients, or they are clients and they want to work in my business. And that lets me know that what I do is rooted in truth, right? So I just want to talk about your journey. Like, what did you experience? What has your experience been from sales school? And then now you're in this round of Play Big, killing it.
Yeah. So I think I should preface this by I've done a lot of shit. Okay. I've been around the carousel and the whole freaking fairground. Okay. And so I've done a lot of programs, a lot of coaching, a lot of things. And, it's easy to say, I don't need anything. I've done a lot. My business is making $1 million, that kind of thing. But I remember, I think it was a challenge you were doing. And I think you had said to me, you should do this challenge. And so it's like, yeah, I'm going to do that. I know Shameca always over delivers. And so I'm going to do that. And then you offered sales school. And I was like, oh my God, this seems like a no-brainer. Like, holy moly, right? Given what I know, I've also worked in business coaching and personal development for other companies. And so I was like, this seems like a no-brainer. I'm going to jump in. I really got to say, and I say this to everybody, I was blown away by the amount of support and the high touch for a program that in the marketplace is positioned like very economically, right? And so immediately I was like, wow, there's a lot of support in here. This is amazing. I'm going to get great results, right? Being able to be mentored and taught by you personally about sales, I always, like anybody who knows me, especially my friends, will know that I'm really good to talk about money and about business. And then you ask me to present an offer, and suddenly I have a lot of other things I need to do, right? So I'm like a master at going and speaking. For years, I've spoken on really big stages. And then the offer point comes, and I'm like, and if you got any questions, just see me in the back of the room. And not even deliver the offer. So I remember one of the first calls where you said, you will not close 100% of the sales you do not make. And I was like, oh my God, she's talking right to me. Like, so what I saw is that I would say within the first 6 weeks, my sales skills improved tenfold. Mm-hmm. And I loved the way each month had a focus and a strategy that I could try. And so it became really easy. It was like, just do this. Just do this for a month and see what happens. And so I just started experimenting. It was like, well, I don't know. I'm just going to do what Shameca says, right? And see what happens. And started closing sales. The biggest shift in my business was when you said to me on a coaching call, I think this was like month 2, you said, I want you to close sales on the call. Because before I'd be like, oh, I need to go away and present a proposal and look at shit. And you're like, you don't need to do any of that. You know what they need. You're scared. And you just called it out. And I'm like, I'm scared. Why am I scared, Shameca? Why am I scared? And so I started just delivering the offer on the call and being really unattached to them saying yes or no. And I started closing sales on the call.
I love it. You know, it's interesting. Like people think that they get to a certain level and they don't need support. Like here you are running this high level business and you still had this lag time with your sales because you were doing proposals and all these other things. And I was having this conversation with a group of people at dinner a couple of nights ago and just kind of sharing with them, I'm not in one program. Guys, I'm in multiple programs. I'm in multiple masterminds, like multiple high dollar investments programs, because when I see a gap in my business, when I see a hole that's not being filled by the programs that I'm in, instead of like, well, I'll just wait till this program's over and then I'll go do something else. I'm trying to I'm getting the support I need so that I can move quickly, so that I can grow and expand. And so people think that maybe even you arrive at a certain level because now your business is at $1 million and you just know everything. Like I see some people, they hit 6 figures in a program and they're like, well, I don't need coaching anymore. I don't need any support. It's the same old thing. I'm like, it's never the same thing because you're always expanding and growing. And at every new level, the same traumatic experiences you've had, the same crap that's in your head when you're trying to get to your first 6 figures comes when you're trying to get to your first 7 or your next 7 or whatever. It just keeps coming up. And so, Michelle, can you speak to that? Like, how do you feel about like investing at the level that you're currently at when you're looking for support? What are the things that you're looking for? And how do you decide?
Yeah. So I have been like kind of like head down working in my business for a couple of years, not getting any coaching. So I went through this period of intense growth with a lot of coaching and support. And then like, okay, head down, like, there were some circumstances, lost some team members, like things like that. But it was like head down working in the business. What I see when I look at the numbers is my business leveled out. There was no growth. There was new clients coming. There was clients leaving. It was like a washing machine kind of thing, right? And so what I became really aware of over the past month or so is that I've invested in some coaching. I've invested in some communities. So I joined sales school. I joined Play Big. And I have purposely joined a few communities. Some have worked for me. Some have not. Right. And it's been about, like my growth, my expansion. And I can't grow my business without support. So what I hear a lot of people say is what you highlighted is like, oh, I'll do this thing to the end and then I'll find something else, or maybe I'll do it again or whatever. Right. And it's like, no, when you can do this thing and getting results, sometimes I've got the result I needed and I'm out. Like I'll still pay whatever I'm supposed to pay if I want a payment plan or something. But like I got what I needed, I'm gone. I don't need to spend any more time there. Right. Or I join a community, and this happened to me this year. I joined a community. I spent a little bit of time in there. I realized, not what I was looking for. I'm out. I still paying like a paid in full kind of thing. It's all good. I just don't need to spend. It's not where I'm in that growth.
Yeah.
So I realized that community and resonance is important, and support, because when I don't have that, I level off and I just kind of hang out there. Mm-hmm. And so this year, my business probably will top out at the end of the year about 1.3 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Super cool. By the way, that's cash, guys. Yeah. You know, people always want to ask. They're like, is that?
Yeah, that's cash, because that's how my business operates. Like I'm a service provider, right? So I don't kind of bill kind of like, I don't count revenue that hasn't been deposited.
Cool. I want to do something that I don't usually do. We're going to keep talking. I want you guys to ask us questions, because you've got 2 $1 million business owners here.
Ooh.
And we're just going to do an ask anything. So you've got one that's an expert in sales and mindset. And you got one that's an expert in finance and mindset.
Yeah.
And I really want to talk about money. Like, what shakes you up when you think about building a multi-million-dollar business? What shakes you up when you think about selling your highest end offer, whether it's $30,000 or $10,000 or $5,000 or $1,000 for some of you? You know, whatever it is, I'm pretty sure Michelle and I have both been on the journey of trying to figure it out. Like, Play Big is now, it's $15,000 now for 90 days in that program. Why? Because I get badass results. So that's just that.
I think I'm sitting at around $280,000.
Just inside of Play Big.
Just inside of Play Big.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a pretty incredible program. So it's 15K, but it used to be, drum roll. The first time I ever sold Play Big, I sold it for $997.
Oh my God.
Get this. 6 months.
Oh my God.
And you could pay $197 a month on a payment plan, so it was $1,200.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh my God.
You know, we all grow, right? I remember the first program I ever offered was a year long. It was called, I don't know, the year of something, but it was $147 a month. It was a group program, but they got like one-on-one access to me and like all this, like that was like 10 years ago, but still like, I'm like, what?
Yeah. And all of it was mindset, right? It was like me and people's wallets deciding what they could afford, wanting to make it affordable for everyone. And by doing that, my pricing wasn't at a resonant rate for the people who would invest in it, because they didn't see the value in a program that would last 6 months. That was $1,000. It just didn't make sense to them. Right. It also had a bunch of crap in it, like not crap, but I was trying to like stuff everything I could in it for the value. And what happened is the people who were in the program were so overwhelmed with modules and paperwork and all of the things that they didn't get results. And so as I started to have an internal value conversation with myself, and value starting from the inside out instead of the outside in, things begin to shift in my business. How I structure programs shifted. How I support clients shifted. How I charge, it shifts. It shifted based on that. And then I begin to see my business take off. All right, let me see it. If I got some questions in here. I see it, Joanna, I see your question about conversion content. I want to stay on the money conversation for this so that we don't veer off. So I'm going to move down to some other questions. If you have a question about money mindset, then we'll answer those here. What's the biggest difference you've observed? This is Sonia. I'm going to put it up on the screen so everybody can see it. And I'm going to take our names down. By now, you guys should know who we are.
If you don't, get to know us.
Right. Okay. What's the biggest difference you've observed between having your first 50K month? Like, can I remember that? Hold on. I'm going to have to ground myself to go back to it. And your first 6-figure month. Biggest difference. Michelle, do you have something right now? Because I need to like go back to that place.
Yeah, I think a really big piece of this is certainty. It's that energy of certainty. It's kind of like, it's like that once you expand, it's hard to go back. And I think that's why you're having a hard time remembering the 50K, right? Like, I'm so certain, and my team are always so funny about this. When I'll set a goal, they'll be like, well, we better prepare because that's going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. And it's that certainty and that absolute trust and surrender that I've learned as I expand to lean into. That I didn't have back in the days when I was making $10,000 a month.
That's what I was going to say to Sonia's question is there really isn't a difference from me, the $50,000 a month person, to the 6-figure a month person, because it happened so quickly, which is why I can't remember. Like, it almost was a skip over. However, from me, the $10,000 a month person to the $100,000 a month person, huge difference. And a lot of what Michelle said, definitely true, like that certainty, all of those things. But also this, what I believe is like a lot of money or how fast money can come. I understand money just differently and wealth differently. And today we have the accelerated overflow class that I'm teaching or a program that I'm starting today. And that's what we're going to be talking about is this understanding of how money works is completely different. I don't put arbitrary deadlines and dates on things. Like I grew. So I had my first 6-figure month, and then I didn't have any 6-figure months for months after that. Then at the beginning of 2020, something inside of me kind of had an internal, like, no, you need to be, you can consistently do this. So I think around March or April of 2020, I started having 6-figure months back to back to back. And then I had $1 million month in November of the same year. So there's no arbitrary date. Like I'm just very open to allowing time, because time is a man-made construct, the things that are for me to show up at the appropriate time. That could be faster than I thought it was going to be, or it can be slower and I'm still patient knowing that it's going to come. That's that certainty and trust that Michelle is talking about. I think that's the huge difference. It's that and the like what I believe is a lot of money. I used to think 6 figures was a lot. Mm-hmm. That 6 figures in a year was a lot. Listen, when I made my first 6 figures in a year, no, actually, let me tell you guys the whole truth. When I was making $14 an hour, I thought I was rich.
Right?
Because I grew up poor. So I was like, I have a job. I make $14 an hour. Girl, that was nothing. Now, at the time, minimum wage was like $4. So I thought I was doing big things. And then when I made my first 6 figures, you would have thought I was a millionaire. I was spending money like I was a millionaire. That's why it didn't last.
And you have a CFO.
Well, and I have a CFO. It's relative, right? It's relative. So Sonia, if you're thinking that $50,000 is a lot or $100,000 in a month is a lot, then it's going to be a lot for you to get there. It just is what it is. And then you allow it to come in. That's the biggest difference for me.
Yeah. And there, for me, there's also the meaning that we give to these numbers, right? Like, what is that $50,000 a month mean to you? What is the the $100,000 a month mean to you? Like, look at the meaning that you're creating around these numbers. If the $100,000 a month, $100,000 a month revenue point makes you feel successful, can you feel successful now without that?
Yes.
Would be my question, right?
That's so good. You're smart, Michelle. Here's another question. How long ago was that rate of $997? This is for me. That was about 7 years ago. That rate was $997. So the program's 7-8 years old. It was in the very beginning of the program. What shifted for me is I had to get into reality that that wasn't enough money to deliver what I wanted to deliver. That was the real, I just got into reality about that. So
that's a really good point.
Yeah, that price got raised to $3,500 the very next round. That was just me being scared that people weren't going to buy. Had nothing to do with me looking at how much it cost to deliver the program, what I wanted to do for the clients. And I didn't look at any of those things. I just thought, okay, I want people to buy it. And so I just threw a price tag on it. And I was watching everybody else with their $997 programs and all of those things. And I just threw it out there. Once I got into reality, that 6-month program turned into $3,500. And then it moved from 6 months to a shorter term at $3,500. And then the price just started increasing, especially as I started creating results. So the more results I started creating with clients, the more I realized there was a way higher value point, which is why the program's $15,000 now. The type of results that we create, like Michelle just told you, what did you say? 280 something thousand?
I think it's 280. I'm going for the 333.
Right. So 300,000 is her goal. And so like everybody who sets a goal inside of Play Big is setting a goal in the beginning. They're like, okay, let me see if I can do this. It's not something they have done or thought that they are going to do. They're trying to do it. And so her saying, I've done in 12 weeks, or we're 10 weeks in, right? 10 or 11 weeks in.
Yeah.
Almost $300,000 right now. She's like, hell yeah, this is good, right? So there's value there. And so the more results I get, the more value I realize that I'm providing, and then I raise my prices accordingly.
Yeah, and the other piece that I would say, a lot of people when they ask me like, how much should I charge for something? They're not clear on the numbers, like the economics of it, right? Like how much does it cost you to fulfill? How much does it cost you to acquire these clients? But also the question that I always ask people, which you and I talk about, is what is the experience that you're wanting to provide? What does that cost? Right? So if you're spending money on gifts, or they get things, or there's this certain experience you want them to have, pretty much guaranteed that's going to cost some money. And so you got to look at that. So basing your price point on like, oh, well, Sally over there sells it for $997 is basing your price point on her limiting beliefs around money.
Yep. And
her lack, right? Mm-hmm. Don't do that. Know your numbers and expand your capacity to receive.
So good. I told you guys Michelle was smart. Okay, so Janelle has a question. With the same money story coming up at each level, no matter how much you grow, how do you handle those internal conversations? Hold on, let me find it. How do you handle those internal conversations now as multi-million-dollar coaches versus earlier in your journey? And this is how I handle it. Just like that. I'm like, I see you.
I see you.
I raise you 100. It's a game now. It's like, oh, something's on the horizon, because I know when the conversation's coming up, and I'm either in the middle of an expansion or the expansion is coming. I just kind of had a moment like that where I was like, oh, shoot, you're not making enough money, There's things going on because my revenue had shrunk. Had a bunch of clients coming up for renewal. Game on Live is coming. Like, I'm being really transparent with you guys right now. And so I was like, oh, shoot, this is like, okay, you got to get in the game, Shameca. You teach that this is about decisions. So either you can make a decision that you're not going to make that much money until Game on Live, right? Or you make a decision that you're just going to make money or allow money to come to you before that. as you guys know, if you watch me closely, if this is your first time listening to me or seeing me, that a couple of weeks ago, I had a $500,000 week before Game On Live, which last year's Game On Live was $750,000 and $1 million month. What happens is, you know that it's a pattern. Some people do. I know. So this is me answering from my perspective. Other people let it take them out of the game. And what happens, they have these ebbs and flows and cycles. So it comes up and they start reeling. I can't say I thought I dealt with this. And then they start feeling like a fraud and all kinds of things. And then they go into a cocoon and they hide and then they emerge and they do this over and over and over again. You've got to learn how to see it and go, what's this about?
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference with me now. And then I'm not going out. There is not like, I'm not down for long. It used to be, I'm not down for long. I'm not going out.
Yeah. I'm
going to look at it, question it, and then decide how I want to move through it. What about you, Michelle?
Yeah, for sure. I see you, right? Like I know you exist. I see you there hanging around on my shoulder going, Michelle, right? And being surrounded by people that I can have these conversations with, right? So being in a community or having resources, so a coach, a community where I can be like, hey, this is where I'm at today. Like, got anything for me kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But the difference really for me is the fact that it felt invisible before, and now it feels like I just know it's there, and so I can deal with it. It's like knowing the problem exists, right? And reminding myself of the decisions that I've made about money, about how I experience my business, and when I think about these times, because they still happen for both of us, where we're kind of like, like I feel lack, right? Like I feel constriction. It's simply like you've texted me and been like, and I'm like, it's okay. I see you. Mm-hmm. I'm here. Let's just talk about it. Mm-hmm. So it's the reaction point. I'm not reactive anymore, and neither are you. Mm-hmm. Which is different. Before, I would have been hugely reactive, like, oh my God, I got to work myself to death, right, to fill the gap. Now it's kind of like, oh, this is coming up. I see it. Let me just have a little chat with myself, or let me have reach out to my coach or whatever, right? And navigate myself through this.
Love it.
Yeah.
I forgot to put my glasses on. I started to get a headache. I was like, what's happening?
I took mine off. Because then you see the screen in my glasses. Anyways.
I know. I'll just do like this. All right. There's another question I want to put up. Mm-hmm. What do you do when you live with people who do not match your $1 million vibes? You move. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. You get the hell out.
I mean, I don't know that I'm a great person to ask this, because I'm a master at like compartmentalizing things. And so I can just be in my own bubble, living my best life, regardless to what's going on around me. But I've worked at being able to do that. So I think the biggest thing I would say is like, you got to know what you want for you. And Michelle just kind of mentioned this, reactions. I don't react to other people's reality and what they have going on. They could be all over the place, reeling. I'm like, nah, you're not going to mess with my vibe, because I know what my vibe gets me. And so I do whatever I can. Like, got my mindset routines in the morning. I'll pop on some music. I will have a whole dance party while all hell is breaking loose, because I know that it's all about how we react and how we give into the emotion, right? We create based on how we feel. And I don't want those types of emotions manifesting in my life. What I want my life to mirror back to me is the goodness that I feel within me, the goodness that I know is possible for me. And so I try to surround myself with as much good, even if it's just in my own little cocoon. So the more hell that's breaking loose in my life, the more joy you'll see come out of me. Period.
That's awesome. I just wrote something down because this is a really common question. And I want to make sure I remember this, but the first thing I would say, and I have had this, okay, like I actually don't know anybody who hasn't experienced this, but like my husband and I have two very different, or he's my ex-husband now, but that might give you a clue as to how you handle it. But we have two very different philosophies of money and experiences of money, right? And beliefs, really. And so I learned through a coach that I had that it's not my job to educate or convince people that my way is the right way. Right. So I don't need to kind of like, do all this work to bring them into my energy. That's their thing to deal with. Right. Because what we can see is that when we have like that expansive abundance state, right, we're in that powerful state of being, or that executive state of being, right, where we have access to ideas and inspiration and creativity and all that stuff, and critical thinking skills. Mm-hmm. And if somebody is sitting in lack and scarcity and fear, they're actually in the survival part of their brain. And in that place, they actually lack access to those resources, and empathy is turned off. So they can't even understand your situation. So it's like you're not even in the same frequency, because they have absolutely no ability. The empathy is turned off when you're in that survival state. And so they're in fight, flight, or fear. And they have no understanding of what you're in. They can't even relate to you. So you could talk all day long and you're not going to be able to convince them. So what do? You just let them be and know that they're having their own experience, and they're on their own journey. And maybe that means that they hang out with you. Maybe it means they don't. I don't know. But there's not a lot you can do to move people along somewhere that they might not even be aware that they're at.
The brilliant Michelle Cooper, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my God.
I think we have one more question here.
Yay.
Let's see. Let me just make sure. All right. This one's long. Niza said, thank you. That was very helpful. So this is Brandy. It's not really a question. Brandy said, I made my first 6 figures in a year just 2 years ago. Recently, I made $107,000 in 73 days in my consulting business. First of all, yeah, girl.
You go, girl.
Now, back to the question. I'm now anxious that this was a fluke, and I'm wondering, how can I duplicate the success? Okay, so I want to stop right here before I go to part 2. Stop trying to duplicate the success, because you can't duplicate it. You're not going to have the same circumstances. You're not going to have the same resources. You're not going to have the same client that bought. It's not the same. Mm-hmm. You can do it again. You can allow $107,000 to come to you fast. You can allow $200,000 to come to you faster, but you can't duplicate exactly what you just did. So don't even try. You can't make it happen. But since you've already done this once, the probability that you will do it again is exponential. I'm going to tell you a quick story. Yesterday, I did not go surfing, by the way, those of you guys who are wondering. I went to go watch others surf. So I was taking videos, and I missed someone who caught a wave. It was their first time. They had been trying. They didn't catch a wave. Here's what I instinctively thought. Oh, shoot, let me grab my camera. They just did it once. The probability that the next time they come through, they're actually going to do it again is high. Guess what? Shameca caught their next wave. They had been trying for like 20 minutes, and they couldn't stand up on the board. They caught a wave. I missed it. I didn't go, oh, shoot, I didn't get them on video. I was like, oh, let me grab my camera. Right. Let me grab my camera, because they're going to do it again. Because honey girl, honey child, Brandy love, once you have in your DNA how to do something, your soul remembers how to do it. You can do again. You can't duplicate it, but you can do it again. You already know how. You just have to allow it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Do you have something to say
Mic
about that,
drop.
Michelle?
Like I got nothing out of that. That's like a mic drop. Like, yeah, you've done it once, you can do it again. This whole idea of duplicating, it just doesn't make sense, right? Like if we look at the natural world, we look at nature, things don't duplicate, right? They
Yeah.
grow,
Yeah.
they
They
happen
expand.
frequently, they
Yeah.
expand,
There's
but
a
they don't duplicate.
right. There you go. Boom. The way you look at things changes everything. It changes the pressure we put on ourselves. And that conversation can come up. I found myself 2 months ago having that internal conversation about Game on Live. I didn't expect to do $1 million month last year. So then I was like, well, what if I don't do $1 million this year? Like all of those feelings. And I was just like, it doesn't freaking matter. Whoever I'm supposed to serve, I serve. So what if I don't do $1 million again this year? It doesn't make me a failure. I've given no meaning to that. It doesn't matter. I'm going to show up and serve the people, and whatever happens, happens. Whatever magic is supposed to happen during that event will happen. That is it.
Mm-hmm.
No pressure.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do my thing. The second part of her question or statement was, I don't have an online business, so I'm discounting my progress, which I don't know why having an online business or not makes a difference. It's harder probably to make money online than it is off. I don't know. I don't have a question. I'm just scared. So I'm going to say a couple of things. And then Michelle, if you want to kind of speak to Brandy, you can. First of all, give yourself 100% of the credit. You're a badass. Own it. Because it's from that owning it. We talked about certainty earlier. That's how you create more. From this space, which is rooted in lack and disappointment and all the negative things, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? We want the self-fulfilling prophecy to be on the positive end, on the abundant side, which is take full ownership of it, girl. You worked it. You did that. Celebrate yourself. If you haven't done something to celebrate, go celebrate. If you haven't announced it to people that you want to announce it to who can celebrate with you, you do that, just like we just did here. But let that celebration sink in. It wasn't a fluke. You did that. Take full ownership of it. And about being scared. There's nothing to be scared of. You may not do it again, right? You may not do 107,073 days, but what you got a taste of is the knowing that you could.
Mm-hmm.
Lean into that. You got something for her, Michelle?
Yeah, it's like this is the Believe series, so I think this is an amazing, thing to be talking about because it is about belief. You've seen evidence that you can do it, so just believe in yourself. Just believe in it. It's possible. More than that is possible. Less than that is possible. Business is like, it's like a river. There's fast parts, there's slow moving parts, there's, large volume of water, small volume of water, there's rapids, there's easy flowing things, there's eddies, like it's all different. And it's really important to know that across the board in business, it doesn't matter if you're just an entrepreneur, solopreneur on your own, or you're a hundreds of millions of dollars corporation. Everybody has their, the things, the ebb and flow of business, and that's normal. It's totally normal. And so relax into it, relax into the belief, and just show up and serve. Yeah. If you just do that, everything will change. Read Happy Pocket Full of Money.
Yes. I believe that Brandy is just a peek into what's possible for you. That's the thing. It's like people don't realize that when they do have these swoops of like fast cash, it's like a nod from God saying, here's what I could do if you just let me.
Yeah.
Stop trying to control it and just let me do my thing. That's why I'm like, now you know what's possible, right? You are like, I made my first, 6 figures 2 years ago, and now I just did it in 73 days. Oh, possibility, mind blown. You can do it again and again and again. And then you just learn to master collapse in time, which we don't have time to talk about here.
Maybe do it in 7 days.
Right. And then you can do it in a day. Like that's the game that we play around here. That's the paradigm I'm trying to shift in the world, which we're going to talk about during Accelerated Overflow today. The paradigm that I'm trying to shift is that making money like this takes time, that you have to grow to the point that you do this at $1 million, you do that in a year, or there's this time frame for doing it. It takes you 3 to 5 years to build $1 million business, all of that stuff. You can have $1 million month like I did. And one day I hope to be standing before you guys saying, I'm making multiple $1 million in a month or $1 million in a day. I will continue to lead in this way. I'm not holding on tightly to when that's going to happen and trying to make it happen in some time frame. I'm holding on to the certainty that I know that this is where I'm going. That's it. Doesn't matter that, this month is $23,000 and not $150,000 or $500,000. None of that shakes me or makes me go, oh my gosh, I should be doing this or that. Because like Michelle said, there are ebbs and flows. Were you going to say something, Michelle?
Yeah, I was going to say, and there needs to be ebbs and flows, because we can't go foot to the floor 24 miles an hour, 24 gazillion miles an hour, 24/7.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So it's just a natural.
But they will try, Michelle. They will try.
No, why? Don't do it.
I want to pull this up again. And just for those of you who are just tuning in and you missed this earlier, I want to invite you to Game On Live event. I don't do a lot of long teachings. Well, that's not true. I talk for a long time. We've been on this thing for 50 minutes, but I don't get a lot of time with people in depth. And so this is the space where it's not just a couple of hour session. That's about the max that I normally do, or a 45-minute live stream. It's an entire 3 full days from morning to evening, immersed in the energy that you're feeling right now. In the body of work that we're kind of talking about right now, and being surrounded by people like Michelle, myself, and my clients who are doing 6-figure months, 6-figure days, even the ones who are doing their first 6 figures in a year. You got to be connected to people who are on the same frequency or going on the same trajectory. They're building, they're all stretching themselves around their financial goals, right? Not hoping, wishing, praying, but they're literally doing the work of expansion. When you connect to that, you can't help but to rise and expand, because a rising tide lifts all ships. Mm-hmm. November 11th, 12th, and 13th is Game On Live event. The investment for Game On Live event is $497 right now. This price is going to be doubling to $997. And that math is probably not right. That's probably not exactly double, but we're just going to say it's double. And I can't tell you the date, because guess what? Shannon's not here and I don't know what the date is. So
right,
at some date, at some point in the next few days or even week.
I don't even know the date.
The price to Game On Live will double to $997, and you won't be able to email me and say, oh, I wish I would have gotten it, and my dog ate my homework and I lost my credit card or whatever. Here's the thing. What I know is money loves speed, and fast decision makers usually create more in their life. And so I'm always a rewarder of fast decision makers. That's why we have these stair steps of price. It's not to play a game with you. I want you to get used to knowing your own internal compass and trusting yourself. And if you wait too long, more often than not, you lose, right? There is a penalty for that. And so if you move fast, like I announced Accelerated Overflow on a Friday, by the end of the day, within 24 hours, those free seats were gone. And people were like, wait, I did it right away. I was like, didn't do it fast enough. Right? It was first come, first serve. And it didn't matter. It wasn't even the first 25 people that got it. It was people after them that moved fast. They made their decisions. They dropped everything. They went and, put their names in. They got the free seats. Then the next people, guess what? Because they still responded, they got discounted seats. Then there were some people who just took themselves way out the game and was like, oh, I'm not going to even try because it's only 25 people. They didn't even know that there would have been something waiting for them on the other side. When your soul says move, you move. I just thought about that song. When I move, you move. Just like that.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
GameOnLiveEvent.com. GameOnLiveEvent.com. And Niza was saying I was like the 80th person to say I want a seat, but she was able to get a free seat because people don't move. You wonder why things don't come to you, why you're not expanding how you want to. Too much remunerating in your mind.
Yeah.
Right? Faith without works is dead. It's like action. There's action to that decision, not just to deciding that I want $1 million business, but how do you align with that $1 million business? What were you going to say, Michelle?
I was going to say, it's a habitual pattern of behavior, right? If you hesitate, there's a lack of certainty. And so if it's showing up in something like as easy as this, it's showing up in other places in your life, and for sure in your business.
Absolutely.
Right? And so it's this is where we connect all the dots, right? Like, if you're hesitating on a free ticket because you're like, oh, I don't know, my grandma's visiting,
right?
And blah, blah, right? It's like, okay, just decide yes or no, and like move on, right? Or a $47 ticket or a $90. It's like, just decide, be certain, move forward, right? Make move the waves, part the seas, or whatever it is, so that you can be where you want or need to be, and be there. Because if you're wishy-washy, you're being wishy-washy in your business, for sure.
I love it.
And your clients are feeling it, and your sales, your revenue shows it.
And I'll for sure tell you this isn't like any other event. Like I said, it's not an event. It's not a conference. It's a war cry. Game On is like that call, that warrior cry from the inside of you that's like, bring everything you got. I'm ready. I'm ready to rise. I'm ready to own it. And I'm going to face what's next for me with confidence and certainty and with a badass strategy. So it's almost impossible for me to fail, and a community surrounded around me so that it's almost impossible for me to fail. That's what Game On is about. You're not going to just be sitting there writing in notebooks. It is a 4D experience. I want you to transform. So even though it is virtual, you are going to feel like you're in the room, and you're going to be moving through a transformational process, again, that will not leave you the same way as when you came into the doors. So GameOnLiveEvent.com is where you want to go for that. And then we're going to wrap this up. So Michelle, we've talked a lot about money and all kinds of things. Do you have any like last things that you want to say? Like if you were just thinking about talking to someone, even someone who was where you were, like you were talking about your in between investing and all of those things, like what words of encouragement do you have for them?
I think it's important to be honest with ourselves as to where we're at. Regarding like our beliefs, our mindset, our thinking, and also our business, right? Like, don't think you got $1 million business. No. Mm-hmm. Right. So, this is always interesting. I always see people who are like, oh yeah, I'm doing this. Like we had a client come in over the past couple of months and she's like, I have $1 million business and it's highly profitable. And I'm like, well, let's look at the numbers. Oh, no, you don't. You made $400,000 and you're actually operating at a loss.
Wait.
Right? And it's like, that's some hard shit to swallow. If you think there's something else going on. So look at your thinking, be aware of your thought process, your habits, like I said, your patterns of behavior, and just know the reality of where you're at so that you don't attach meaning to that. Mm-hmm. We didn't attach meaning to that situation. It's not like she's a failure. It's like, okay, well, here's where we're at. You thought you were here, but actually we're here and we need to move forward from here. What are we going to do? Right? Create a plan, and get the support. Like your event, Game On Live, is such a phenomenal opportunity. Like, because it's not like so many of these things are just a sales pitch, mm-hmm. Right? This is not. So get the support that fits for you.
I love it. Michelle's going to be speaking there, by the way. It's like funny. It's so glad to hear you say that because I try not to defend how I do work in the world, how I show up. I'm like, either it's resonant or it's not. I'm not going to tell you that it's not like that program that you're in or it's not like this that you're in. you're going to have to feel it for yourself, and you have to trust that knowing. Because I can't spend time trying to dismantle what you've experienced in this industry, because I know it hasn't been good all the time. But you've got to learn how to trust your knowing when something is for you. Trust you. And I know it's hard to do that when you trusted yourself before and been let down and let down and let down. Like, oh, that didn't work. That didn't work. That's life too. But you still have to have the courage to trust again. Otherwise, you've already lost. This has been an incredible conversation. I didn't know how it was going to go.
So good. So good. We could talk forever.
Yeah, we could talk forever and ever and ever. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you sharing your story. I appreciate you sharing your wisdom with everyone. I appreciate you having you in my life, like totally.
I appreciate you. Love you, Shameca.
I love you too.
My world is a better place.
Definitely. I don't know if we even talked about this, but we met each other at someone else's event 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
She was the first person I saw when I came to the event to like go check in and everything. I was there by myself. And I don't know, there was just something in that moment where I just remembered her. Didn't know that this was the journey that we were going to go on, but we're here now.
We are. We're in deep.
We're here now. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I hope that this has inspired you to believe more, to believe deeply, to believe in yourself, and to know that what's possible for you is definitely more than you can infinitely imagine or dream or think of. I have a saying that I've been saying. It's once you see what's possible, you can never unsee it. And I hope today has anchored some possibility in for you. So thank you guys for hanging out with us, and we will see you next time.
See you at Game On Live.
See you at Game On Live. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for watching my show, my channel. Here's what I want you to do. If you really love what you've been listening to, I want you to subscribe to my channel and leave me a comment. No, really, leave a comment. Like right now. I'm not gonna stop talking until you leave a comment. Seriously, leave a comment.